Football fans, brace yourselves because we just got some genuinely tough news straight from Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn himself. And the way he handled the moment tells you everything you need to know about the culture inside that building. We are talking a serious injury to one of this team's most respected offensive linemen, a surgery announcement, an emotional tribute from his own head coach, a significant chain reaction shuffle across the entire offensive line, and a fresh ankle scare involving one of this defense's most important building blocks. So settle in, because there is a lot of ground to cover from this particular press conference, and not all of it is easy news to deliver. Let's start with the headline that set the tone for this entire session, because Dan Quinn confirmed that veteran left tackle Laramie Tonsil suffered a tricep injury and will require surgery to repair it. Right away, you could hear the weight in Quinn's voice as he addressed the situation, acknowledging just how difficult it always is to talk about any player missing significant time, but especially a player of Tonsil's caliber. Quinn did not hold back in his praise, describing Tonsil not just as an unbelievable player on the field, but as an absolutely fantastic teammate off of it as well. He made it clear that Tonsil is going to be genuinely missed in that locker room, and that the entire organization cannot wait to eventually welcome him back once his recovery process is complete. But true to the next man up mentality that defines every successful NFL organization, Quinn quickly pivoted into explaining exactly how this team plans to adjust in Tonsil's absence. According to Quinn, tough scenarios like this one do create genuine opportunities for other players on the roster. And in this specific case, that opportunity falls to offensive lineman Brandon Coleman, who will be shifting back out to left tackle to fill that void. Quinn expressed real confidence in Coleman, pointing out that he has already played a significant amount of winning football at that exact position in the past, and that he is more than ready to step back into that starting role. Quinn specifically praised the excellent offseason Coleman put together and made clear that the entire coaching staff carries genuine confidence in his ability to handle this increased responsibility. When reporters pressed further on exactly how difficult it is to properly quantify everything this team is losing with Tonsil sidelined, Quinn broke his answer down into two distinct categories. On the field, he explained that the impact honestly speaks for itself given Tonsil's caliber as a player, but he was equally emphatic about the significance of the off-field impact as well, specifically pointing to Tonsil's connection with his teammates and the way he consistently interacts with and uplifts the people around him. According to Quinn, this loss is significant in both realms, on the field and off it, and that duality is exactly what makes replacing a player like Tonsil so genuinely challenging. Digging even deeper into the specific on-field traits this offense will miss most, Quinn pointed directly to Tonsil's elite skill level in pass protection, noting that he currently finds himself in fantastic physical shape and is genuinely playing at the top of his game right now. Quinn emphasized that Tonsil brings equally strong value in both the running game and the passing game, describing him as the kind of dominant left tackle that running backs can trust to create real movement behind, and the kind of pass protector that allows a quarterback to operate without needing extra help or additional blocking resources sent his way. Losing that level of dual-threat dominance at such a critical position along the offensive line represents a genuinely significant challenge for this coaching staff to navigate. Reporters also asked Quinn whether the coaching staff considered a different kind of shuffle in response to this injury, specifically wondering if another offensive lineman with previous experience at left tackle, a player named Josh, might have been a candidate to slide into that spot instead of Coleman. Quinn acknowledged it was a fair question, but explained that ultimately the coaching staff simply liked the developmental progression Josh has been on at his current position and made the deliberate decision to keep his growth trajectory uninterrupted rather than shuffling multiple pieces around unnecessarily. It was a small but telling detail about how deliberately this coaching staff approaches roster management, even in the face of an unexpected injury. When asked whether the front office might look to bring in outside reinforcements, either as immediate depth or through some other roster move, Quinn indicated that as of this particular press conference, that was not something actively being discussed from a roster construction standpoint. He explained that in the immediate aftermath of the injury, the primary focus has simply been on Tonsil's overall well-being and getting a clearer picture of where he currently stands, with a fuller understanding of timelines and next steps expected to come once the surgery itself has actually taken place. Now here comes a genuinely fascinating storyline about Brandon Coleman specifically, because a reporter asked Quinn how different Coleman looks now compared to the last time he was working as a regular starter. Quinn's answer offered a real, human window into the developmental journey so many young NFL players go through. He explained that when a player gets thrown into significant playing time as a rookie, there are naturally going to be ups and downs throughout that process. He specifically referenced the kind of adversity that comes with that experience and how a player's response to that adversity heading into his second year often reveals a great deal about his long-term makeup. According to Quinn, that exact kind of fight and determination is precisely what defined Coleman's most recent offseason, which is a big reason why he opened this particular training camp playing well at left guard even before this shift back out to tackle became necessary. Quinn drew a broader point from that specific example, explaining that when players push through genuinely difficult stretches, they often emerge stronger and more resilient on the other side, having internalized real hard-earned lessons along the way. He suggested that Coleman, along with a handful of other players on this roster, fits squarely into that same mold, someone who has shown the resilience necessary to grow through adversity rather than being permanently set back by it. Reporters also asked Quinn whether this specific injury situation might change his broader philosophy regarding how much he wants to play his starters during the upcoming preseason schedule. Quinn was candid in acknowledging that these situations are always difficult regardless of circumstance, anytime a player gets banged up during camp. He indicated that detailed conversations regarding exactly how to approach playing time for the season opener and beyond would be happening internally with the rest of the coaching and front office staff over the following day or so. He also touched on the genuine value that joint practices provide in that broader decision-making process, helping shape exactly how the coaching staff wants to feature certain players, while also acknowledging that actual preseason game action carries its own distinct value in terms of accumulating meaningful reps. Ultimately, Quinn made clear that the coaching staff intends to remain as strategic as possible in balancing those competing priorities moving forward. Shifting over to the defensive side of the ball, reporters asked Quinn about the interior defensive line depth, specifically noting that veteran defensive tackle Tim Settle has been seeing significant usage at the nose tackle spot and inquiring about the overall depth at that position given a recent retirement within that room. Quinn praised Settle specifically for his overall strength and the squared-up technique he consistently plays with. He also singled out another interior defender named Shaka for praise, describing him as an experienced player who has genuinely made his presence felt, particularly during padded practice sessions. Quinn expressed general confidence in the overall mix of players currently occupying that interior defensive line room, differentiating between the quicker, more athletic players typically found on the edge compared to the bigger, more square-bodied players needed to hold up on the interior. Quinn was also asked specifically about the development of a promising young pass rusher named Joshua Joseph throughout this training camp, and his answer carried genuine excitement. He described Joseph as being on the right developmental trajectory, specifically highlighting his impressive length as a pass rusher and how that length translates into real separation against opposing offensive tackles through effective long-arm technique. Quinn also praised Joseph's natural bend as a pass rusher, describing it as exactly the kind of trait that translates well at the professional level. According to Quinn, seeing those specific physical tools consistently show up on tape, combined with Joseph continuing to gain valuable experience going up against a variety of different opponents throughout camp, has him genuinely pleased with the progress on display so far. The conversation then shifted toward logistics surrounding an upcoming joint practice, with a reporter asking whether Quinn had already been in communication with the opposing team's head coach regarding exactly what both sides hoped to accomplish during that session. Quinn confirmed he had indeed spoken directly with his coaching counterpart, explaining that these kinds of collaborative sessions typically get broken down through direct head coach to head coach communication, establishing shared guidelines and expectations, with the home team generally setting the overall parameters for what they specifically want to accomplish. Quinn also noted that the respective coordinators on both sides work together to coordinate specific looks and situational plays, ensuring the joint practice runs smoothly and productively for both organizations. He expressed genuine excitement about hosting this particular opposing coaching staff, noting he had already connected with them earlier in the offseason, and promised fans that this session was shaping up to be a genuinely great, competitive practice. Reporters also brought up the team's unofficial early depth chart, specifically noting that receiver Luke McCaffrey currently holds down that valuable third receiver spot, and asked Quinn what specifically about his training camp performance has made the coaching staff comfortable with that positioning. Quinn offered a bit of good-natured perspective before diving into his actual answer, joking that an unofficial depth chart carries roughly the same predictive value as early season power rankings. But setting that humor aside, he offered genuine substantive praise for McCaffrey specifically, pointing to his intentional development across several key areas of his game. Quinn specifically referenced McCaffrey's breakout emergence as a kick returner during the previous season, framing that accomplishment as a real reflection of his competitive nature. Beyond special teams, Quinn also praised meaningful improvement in McCaffrey's release off the line of scrimmage and his overall route running technique. He framed this continued growth within the broader context of McCaffrey now entering his third season at the position, suggesting that natural experience curve is clearly translating into visible on-field ascension. Quinn also highlighted McCaffrey's positional versatility, capable of playing both from the slot and out wide, which becomes especially valuable now that the coaching staff has to figure out exactly how to optimally deploy a receiver room that also now includes Stephon Diggs. Quinn additionally gave a shout-out to another young receiver named Jalen Lane, praising his continued growth and improvement as he heads into his second professional season, calling that kind of internal development genuinely exciting to witness. Naturally, reporters connected the dots back to the broader offensive line shuffle, specifically asking how the Tonsil injury situation might create added pressure for guard Chris Paul, who now finds himself working alongside a center still adjusting to his own new role, all while his usual left tackle partner is no longer practicing at that specific spot. Quinn's answer offered real reassurance regarding the existing chemistry within that offensive line room. He explained that Chris and Coleman already share a strong existing relationship, having accumulated plenty of practice reps together previously, meaning this is not some brand new pairing being thrown together for the very first time under pressure. Quinn specifically emphasized that these players have already spent significant time together, both on the practice field and in meeting rooms, drawing a similar parallel to the working relationship already established between the team's other interior linemen. He acknowledged that the center position specifically remains something of an ongoing battle that will likely continue playing out over the coming weeks, with one specific center option expected to miss an upcoming joint practice block before potentially returning to the mix afterward. Despite the uncertainty, Quinn expressed real confidence in Chris Paul specifically at that guard spot, and emphasized that continuing to build additional practice time and chemistry between him and Coleman specifically will be an important priority moving forward. Unfortunately, the offensive line was not the only position group dealing with injury concerns during this update, because Quinn also fielded a question regarding cornerback Trey Amos, who had reportedly left a recent practice early. Quinn explained that the injury occurred on a deep passing play down the field along the left sideline, with Amos apparently landing awkwardly on his ankle during that specific rep. Quinn indicated the team is simply holding him out as a precaution, given the resulting soreness, and promised a clearer update within the next day or two once more information becomes available. When a follow-up question specifically asked whether Amos might realistically be available for the upcoming joint practice against the Dolphins, Quinn was honest in saying he did not yet have a confident answer, but reiterated that a better sense of the timeline should become clearer as that practice date approaches. Circling back once more to Coleman's specific transition, a reporter asked Quinn to elaborate on exactly what kind of adjustment a lineman typically faces when shifting from an interior guard spot back out to the tackle position. Quinn explained that the primary difference comes down to the angles involved in pass-setting technique, along with the natural muscle memory adjustment that comes with switching between those two spots. He specifically pointed to Coleman's athleticism as one of his key attributes, noting that gaining the proper depth off the snap within his sets will likely represent the single biggest technical adjustment for him to work through. But Quinn expressed real confidence that, given Coleman's extensive track record of thousands of career repetitions at that exact tackle position, he will comfortably settle back into that space. Quinn specifically noted that the team has already won plenty of football games with Coleman playing left tackle previously, estimating that track record at somewhere over 20 career games across the past 2 seasons alone. Finally, Quinn was asked to reflect on how his offensive coordinator, a first-year play caller named David Blau, has handled the responsibility of command through these first roughly 10 days to 2 weeks of training camp. Quinn's answer carried genuine excitement and confidence in his coordinator's development. He explained that he always anticipated this particular stretch of camp would be an exciting proving ground for Blau specifically, given that so much of the earlier spring practice period revolves primarily around simply installing a new system and giving players the chance to become familiar with a new coach's teaching style and technique preferences. Now that training camp has shifted into a heavier mix of unscripted live practice periods, Quinn explained that real creativity and improvisational thinking has increasingly been allowed to shine through. He described Blau as a genuinely sharp, quick-thinking competitor, exactly the kind of traits you want to see in a play caller who needs to react and counterpunch in real time against whatever a defense throws at him. Quinn specifically credited the ongoing back-and-forth training happening between Blau and the defensive coordinator throughout this camp, explaining that the deliberate decision to build in more unscripted practice periods for both coordinators was intentional, and by all accounts, it appears to be working out extremely well for the development of this entire coaching staff. Wrapping up this eventful press conference, one final round of questions circled back to both Tonsil's recovery timeline and Andrews' ongoing dual role along the offensive line. On the timeline question regarding Tonsil's eventual return, Quinn made clear it would be far too premature to offer any kind of realistic guess until the actual surgery and subsequent recovery process had properly gotten underway, promising a clearer assessment once that surgical procedure is fully complete. He also confirmed that the specific surgical plan had not yet been finalized as of this press conference, revealing that Tonsil is expected to travel out of town this week specifically to gather a couple of additional medical opinions before the final logistics get settled. As for Andrew, Quinn confirmed the team intends to continue developing him at both tackle spots, reinforcing that he remains a player the coaching staff genuinely trusts and has significant confidence in, someone who will continue rotating through both the right and left tackle positions as this valuable swing depth piece. So there you have it, football fans. A genuinely emotional, deeply informative press conference from the top of this Commanders organization. A tough, sobering injury update on one of this roster's most respected players, delivered with genuine, unguarded emotion from his own head coach. A confident, well-reasoned plan to fill that void through Brandon Coleman's return to left tackle. Encouraging praise for the interior defensive line depth and a rising young pass rusher. A fresh ankle scare for a key cornerback that will require a couple more days to fully evaluate, and a genuinely glowing review of this team's first-year offensive coordinator finding his footing and his voice as a play caller. This is exactly the kind of behind-the-scenes, human look into professional football that reminds fans just how much adversity, adjustment, and resilience goes into building a competitive roster long before a single regular season snap is ever played. So now it is your turn, and we genuinely want to hear from you. How confident are you in Brandon Coleman stepping back into that starting left tackle role while Laramie Tonsil recovers from surgery? Are you worried about the ripple effect this injury creates across the rest of that offensive line? And how concerned are you about Trey Amos' ankle injury as this team heads into an important joint practice week? Drop your thoughts and predictions down in the comments section below because we absolutely love hearing what all of you think. If this update helped you get fully caught up on everything happening at Commanders training camp, do us a favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach even more dedicated fans just like yourself. And if you have not already hit that subscribe button, now is the perfect time, because we are going to be right here bringing you every single roster update, every injury development, and every bit of behind-the-scenes coaching insight all the way through this incredibly compelling season. Thanks so much for watching, and we will catch you in the very next update.